The envelope was thick, heavy. My name written in his hand, just Maureen. Not Mom. I opened it standing at the kitchen counter. Didn't sit down. Didn't breathe. 10 words. That's all. Don't try coming to the family reunion. It's not your place. No explanation. No warmth. No space left to ask why. I folded the letter twice, like I was tucking something ugly out of sight. Walked to my phone. Typed one word. Understood. Didn't send a second message. Didn't ask to be reconsidered. That's fine. The judge can talk now. The kitchen always smelled like nutmeg. Even in summer. I used to think that was a kind of magic. How scent could settle into a place like memory does. There was a time when Mark used to call it Mom's house smell. Warm. Spiced. Always waiting. Every morning, I woke before the sun. Not because I had to. Just because I always had. Habit has a funny way of becoming comfort. I boiled water for one. Set out a ceramic mug I'd had since before he was born. Chipped handle. Still good. Still held the warmth if you cupped it with both hands. Some things do. I watered the hydrangeas outside the porch. Wiped the windows even if they weren't dirty. Dusted the photo frames lined up on the hallway shelf like silent soldiers. My husband. Mark at 6 with missing teeth. Christmas in '94 when I made the ham and burned the glaze, and no one complained. Not then. Mark used to call on Thursdays. He'd be walking to his car or feeding his dog or waiting in line at the pharmacy. Quick check-ins. I never asked for more. But at some point, the Thursday calls turned into silent Thursdays. And I told myself maybe he was busy. Busy is forgivable. The last time he stayed overnight was 5 years ago. He said the guest room was too cold. The mattress too soft. But I saw the way his wife wrinkled her nose at the old lace curtains. He didn't look me in the eye when he said goodbye. He said, "Thanks, Maureen." Not Mom. I sat at the same place at the kitchen table every morning. Third chair from the window. Sun hit just right. I'd do the crossword. Halfway through, I'd laugh to myself and say, Mark would know this one. Then I'd remember he wasn't here. And hadn't been. There was no real loneliness. Just the quiet after being useful. I had spent 30 years making sure his lunches were packed, his fears were quieted, his holidays had magic. When he got married, I wore a pale blue dress and gave a toast. I talked about how he used to cry when I left the room. He looked down the whole time. Laughed a little. But didn't meet my eyes. Last Christmas, I made cinnamon rolls from scratch. I wrapped his gift in green paper, his favorite color. A first edition book on architecture. He didn't open it. Said he'd get to it later. The box stayed in their car, unopened, when they drove away. His wife forgot her scarf. They didn't come back for it. I was never truly lonely. Just quietly replaced. There was a spot on the living room wall where a clock used to hang. It had broken years ago, but I never patched the paint behind it. It looked like time had left a shadow. That felt appropriate. Sometimes I'd read old letters. Not the ones from him. There weren't many. But ones from my sister, friends who'd moved away, old coworkers. They'd say things like, "You gave up so much for that boy. He's lucky." And I believed that. I believed that for a very long time. I knitted in the evenings. Scarves mostly. Some I mailed to shelters. Some I folded neatly into drawers and never touched again. Mark never liked wool. Said it made him itch. I stopped making him sweaters when he turned 15. He never noticed. And I never said why. I still cooked dinner at 6. Even if it was just soup and crackers. Still set 2 placemats out. Force of habit. I stopped lighting the candle in the center, though. Didn't like the flicker. Too close to pretending. Neighbors waved when I took the trash out. Some asked how he was doing. Still busy, I'd say. He works a lot. Always with a smile that didn't quite reach. The piano in the corner hadn't been played since his wedding. He used to play Chopin with so much care. That was when his fingers still remembered softness. I dusted the keys. Didn't touch them. Didn't need to. The silence was music enough. Every part of the house had a memory tucked into it. The back porch still creaked on the 3rd step. The attic held a box labeled Mark, Elementary. His report cards. Drawings. A Mother's Day card from 2nd grade that said, "Mom, you are my always." I kept that one in a separate drawer. Wrapped in plastic. Protected. I didn't think I was waiting for anything. Not really. Not a visit. Not a call. Maybe just the sign I still belonged. That somewhere, somehow, he remembered. That he knew who had stayed up when he had the flu. Who taught him to hold a spoon. Who let him go without ever saying, Come back. When the letter came, I recognized his handwriting instantly. Even after all these years. It wasn't shaky or unsure. It was firm. Decided. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit next to the teapot for 3 hours. I dusted the hallway. Fed the birds. Put on my slippers. And then I opened it with a steak knife. Careful not to tear the paper. Careful, always. I read it once. Then I folded it. Placed it beneath the coaster with the crack down the middle. And I made a cup of tea. The nutmeg still filled the room. But something had shifted. Not the air. Me. It didn't happen with a scream. Or a slammed door. Just paper. A thick envelope. No return address. My name written on the front like it was a task. Maureen. Not Mom. Not even Mother. I found it in the mailbox just before noon. Tucked between a church bulletin and a coupon catalog. I knew the handwriting before I touched it. The M always looked like it was leaning away from the rest. Like it didn't want to belong. I didn't open it right away. Set it on the counter next to the tea kettle. It sat there through lunch. And laundry. And a rerun of that home improvement show he used to watch as a teenager. The envelope sat there like a dare. Heavy. At 3 o'clock, I turned off the television. Sat down at the kitchen table. Same chair. Same light. Opened the drawer and pulled out the steak knife I used for letters. I cut along the edge cleanly. Inside, just one sheet. Typed. Plain. Cold. Don't try coming to the family reunion. It's not your place. That was it. No greeting. No explanation. No warmth. Just an erasure. I read it twice. Folded it back neatly. Set it under the old ceramic coaster with the cracked glaze. Then I got up and filled the kettle. Everything in me was shaking, but my hands stayed still. Years of practice. You can learn how to move while breaking. I stood at the window while the kettle hissed. Watched a bird hop across the garden bricks like nothing had changed. Like the whole world hadn't just shifted 2 inches to the left. I poured the water. Dunked the tea bag. Set the cup down with both hands. Then I reached for my phone. I didn't call. I didn't scream. I just typed. Understood. And I hit send. That was all. No punctuation. No name. Just silence and acceptance. The room was silent. But everything inside me was screaming. He didn't even say why. Did I embarrass him? Did I say something wrong the last time we spoke? Did his wife not want me there? Or was it just easier to cut me out quietly than explain the absence later? I thought about the reunion photo from 5 years ago. The one where I stood on the edge while Mark's in-laws crowded the center. I'd worn the blue blouse he once said made me look like home. He didn't even notice. I walked down the hallway. Opened the cedar chest. There it was. Still sealed. The wedding invitation I never received. I found it a month after the wedding. Returned by the caterer with my name misspelled and the address off by 1 digit. He'd said it was a mix-up. Said they'd meant to invite me, but it got lost in the mail. I'd believed him. Because that's what mothers do. We believe even when we know better. I had kept it all these years. Not out of sentiment, but because it didn't make sense. Because somewhere inside I knew it meant something more. I just hadn't figured out what. Now holding this new letter, the words felt familiar. That same quiet exclusion. That same clean removal. Not your place. Not mother. Not welcome. Not necessary. I walked out to the garden barefoot. Felt the cold earth through the soles of my feet. Let the wind pass through my cardigan like I wasn't even there. I stood beside the hydrangeas. Blue, fading at the edges. They never lasted past July. Mark used to pick one every summer and put it in a glass of water. Said it made the whole room look like a postcard. I knelt down and touched the petals. Soft. Fading. Still beautiful. Even in their ending. Back inside, I turned off the kettle. The water already gone lukewarm. Sat back down at the kitchen table. Looked at the envelope again. Looked at my name. Maureen. A woman. A stranger. I picked up the letter one more time. Traced the words with my finger. Don't try coming to the family reunion. It's not your place. Not, we'd rather you didn't. Not, it might be awkward. Just don't. Like a command. Like I had no say. I thought of all the rooms I decorated. All the birthdays I planned. All the late-night calls when he was in college and forgot how to do laundry. All the times I drove him to soccer and cheered the loudest. All the years I stayed quiet so he could feel big. All the times I made myself small so he didn't feel guilt. Not your place. Like I'd never had one to begin with. I closed the letter. Put it back under the coaster. Picked up the phone. Opened our last text thread. Scanned it. 2 months old. Happy birthday, Mark. No reply. I hovered over the delete button. Didn't press it. Not yet. I left the message thread open. Stared at it like it might answer me. It didn't. Somewhere down the road, a car honked. A dog barked twice. Then silence again. I looked out the window. The sky was turning pink. It would be dark soon. And I suddenly knew. The shift didn't happen in the letter. It had happened long before that. This was just the moment I finally admitted it. The moment I let myself feel the full weight of being erased. He didn't remove me in one blow. He chipped away slowly, until there was nothing left of me to recognize. Not even my name. It didn't start with that letter. It started with little things. So small you almost miss them. Until they add up. Until you can't ignore the pattern anymore. The first time he called me Maureen, we were in line at the coffee shop. He was visiting for the weekend, just him. No wife. No distraction. I thought maybe we'd talk. Laugh. Instead, he waved his phone at the cashier, then looked at me and said, Maureen's got it. Like I was just a friend. Someone he tolerated. I told myself he was tired. Work stress. Long drive. Maybe he didn't mean it. He kissed my cheek as he left, but didn't look me in the eye. That Christmas, they brought store-bought cookies. Still in the plastic tray. No ribbon. No note. I had made my pecan pie from scratch. Used the old recipe, the one he loved when he was a boy. He took one bite, nodded politely, then moved on to talk to her father about investments. I told myself people change. Tastes evolve. Maybe it was too sweet. Maybe it reminded him of childhood, and he was trying to be someone else now. They left early. Said they had plans with her family. That's okay, I said. Family is important. I smiled through the dishes. Scrubbed his untouched plate harder than the rest. Later that week, I sent a message asking how they were. No reply. Not even a thumbs up. 3 weeks later, a text came. Can you send over my birth certificate? We need it for the mortgage. No greeting. No thanks. Just a task. I sent it the same day. Wrapped it in tissue. Included a note. Hope you're both well. Miss you. I never heard back. When his wife gave birth, I found out through a Facebook post. The baby wrapped in white. Mark smiling down like he'd won the lottery. No tag. No call. No picture sent to me directly. I mailed a quilt. Hand-stitched. Tiny blue stars. Took me 3 weeks. Never got a thank you. Saw it once in a photo, used under the dog in the background. I told myself they were busy. New parents. Overwhelmed. People forget. The first time I visited their new house, they gave me a tour like I was a stranger. This is the guest room, she said, opening the door to a small, cold space with no curtains. He nodded and said, we can put an air mattress in here if you ever stay. If. I brought flowers. A soft blue vase. Hydrangeas. She smiled thinly and said, oh, we're allergic. They were gone by morning. There was no photo of me in the living room. None in the hallway. Not even one of him as a child. Just her family. Her siblings. Her holidays. I told myself maybe they weren't into photos. Maybe digital frames were the new thing. But later that night, I walked into the kitchen to get water and saw a magnet holding a Polaroid of her mother and the baby, pinned right next to the grocery list. I once sent him a newspaper clipping. An article on architecture, his favorite. Wrote a note at the bottom. Thought of you when I read this. So proud of the man you've become. Weeks passed. No word. I asked about it the next time we spoke. He said, oh yeah, I think it came. Must have tossed it. Then he changed the subject. I told myself, he's just busy. He doesn't mean to be cruel. Men forget things. That's what everyone says. But cruelty isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet removal. The silence where care should be. There was a Sunday I'll never forget. I had made dinner, meatloaf, just like he liked it. Called him and asked if they wanted to come. He said, we've got errands. I heard a laugh in the background. Faint. Sharp. Not his. Then the line went dead. That night, I set the table for 3 anyway. Lit the candle. Let it burn down to the wick. A little wax dripped on the cloth. I didn't clean it. Left the stain. A reminder. I sent them a care package last fall. Cookies. Scarves for the baby. A note that said, stay warm. Love, Mom. The box came back unopened. Wrong address, the label said. Even though it was the one they gave me. I called. Straight to voicemail. Didn't leave a message. What would I have said? I was never invited to his birthday dinner that year. I only found out because my niece posted photos. Candles. Cake. Mark laughing, surrounded by people I didn't know. I saw her father sitting in my seat. Same spot I used to occupy at every milestone. Same toast I used to give. I zoomed in. The cake read, "To the best dad, son, and friend." Nothing else. No mention of family. No mention of mother. I sat there staring at my phone for a long time. Then I opened the drawer. Took out the card I had already written. Didn't tear it. Just slid it into the fireplace and watched it curl. The flames didn't roar. They whispered, like paper letting go. And still I told myself, maybe next time. Maybe one day. Maybe he'll remember. But maybe he already had. And chose to forget anyway. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The kind that taps the window like it's trying to get in. Not dramatic. Just persistent. Quietly asking to be noticed. I had just folded the laundry. 3 shirts. 1 pair of slacks. Things that didn't wrinkle but still got folded because, well, old habits. I don't know why I opened the drawer in the hallway that day. I hadn't touched it in years. It was where I kept little things, forgotten things. Old greeting cards. Tapes. One of Mark's baby socks. And then I saw it. The voice recorder. The little plastic one I used to carry around when he was small. Back when I recorded everything, his laughter, his songs, his tantrums that sounded like opera. I pressed play, not expecting anything. Not even sure it would work. Static. Then, "Love you, Mommy. Don't forget the juice boxes." His voice. Hi. Clear. Maybe 5 years old. Maybe 6. I froze. Hands still on the drawer handle. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. "Love you, Mommy." Over and over. Soft. Innocent. So certain. I sat down on the hallway floor like my legs just gave out. Let the recording play again. And again. Until the battery gave a low whine and died. The silence after that was unbearable. Not because it was empty, but because it was filled with everything I'd lost. I stayed there a long time. Hands on my knees. Eyes fixed on nothing. Rain still tapping like a question I didn't want to answer. Later, I made tea. Didn't drink it. Just held the mug until the warmth faded. The next day, I opened the cedar chest. Pulled out the box labeled Mark Little. It still smelled faintly of baby powder and old paper. I lifted the lid. Inside, drawings of stick figures. A construction paper crown that said Queen Mom. A photo of us at the zoo, his tiny hand gripping mine like I was his whole world. And at the very bottom, the music box. Blue. Chipped at the corner. He'd given it to me for Mother's Day when he was 9. Said he saved his allowance for it. When you wind it, it plays a soft version of You Are My Sunshine. I used to keep it on my nightstand. Then in the closet. Then away, because even the sweetest songs start to hurt when no one sings them back. I wound it once. Just once. Let it play. Each note like a stitch coming undone. A memory I hadn't asked to remember. I looked around the room and saw everything he no longer noticed. The framed poem he wrote in 8th grade. The graduation tassel I kept pinned to the fridge. The quilt I made for his dorm bed. I stood up. Took the mug I'd held earlier. Walked to the sink. Poured the cold tea down the drain. And then, I opened the back door. Walked out into the rain. No shoes. Just soft steps into the wet earth. The hydrangeas were bent from the water. Still beautiful. Still standing. I stood there, arms crossed, cardigan soaked. Let it pour. Let it strip me of every lie I had told myself. He didn't just drift. He left. By choice. With silence and precision. And I had helped him do it. Excused it. Softened it. Wrapped his indifference in tissue paper and called it growing up. I was the one who stayed behind. Always. With the light on. With the oven warm. With the table set. Empty. Forgotten. Perfect. A wind came through and knocked over the ceramic pot by the porch. It shattered. I didn't flinch. Didn't move to fix it. Just watched it break and thought. That's what it feels like. Not an explosion. Not a scream. Just a quiet collapse. The sound of something once whole falling without ceremony. That night, I sat at the piano. Didn't play. Just opened the lid. Looked at the keys like old friends who had nothing left to say. My fingers hovered. Then retreated. Some silences don't need filling. Before bed, I opened the drawer again. Took out the recorder. Pressed play one more time. Love you, Mommy. That voice. That boy. Gone. I turned it off. Wrapped it in a handkerchief. Placed it in a box. Sealed it. Labeled it, don't open. Went to the closet. Took down the mug that said world's best mom. Wrapped it in an old towel. Placed it next to the box. The next day, I drove to the donation center. Left both items on the counter. Didn't leave a name. Didn't leave a note. On the way home, I didn't cry. I hummed. Softly. Almost without realizing. Somewhere along the highway, I whispered, "Have you ever remembered something small? Just when everything felt like it was falling apart?" I have. And I let it go. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't break anything. Didn't call anyone crying. Instead, I started making calls no one expected me to make. I started with the bank. I wore my blue sweater, the one I used to save for Christmas. Hair brushed back. Pearl earrings. Not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I wanted to look like the version of myself I used to be. Before all the quiet betrayals, I closed the joint account, the one I had opened years ago, just in case he ever needed help. They asked me why. I said, "Because I don't." That was all. They nodded. Printed the receipt. Next stop, the courthouse. I had the deed to my home changed. Took his name off the future transfer. Replaced it with someone else's. Someone who showed up for me. My goddaughter. Emma. She calls on Sundays. Sends postcards from places I've never been. She once mailed me a magnet from Vermont that said, "Strong women raise themselves." It's still on my fridge. Now she'll get the house. Not because she asked. Because she never had to. I didn't tell Mark. Didn't need to. Let silence deliver the message. Back home, I took out the folder. The one I hadn't opened in years. It held my old will. My old letters. A list of passwords written in tiny ink. I rewrote everything. Tore the old will into clean strips. Fed them through the shredder one slow line at a time. The sound was peaceful. Then I went to the mailbox. Took out the letter. The one that said, "Don't try coming to the family reunion. It's not your place." I held it in my palm. Folded it again. Walked to the sink. Lit a match. Watched it curl and blacken and turn to nothing. No rage. Just release. Then I opened the drawer near the fridge. Pulled out the old voicemail recorder. Held it once more. Then I walked outside. To the garden. The sky was gray. The air smelled like dirt and rain. I dug a small hole beneath the hydrangeas. Placed the recorder inside. Covered it with soil. Didn't say a word. Didn't say goodbye. Just patted the earth flat with my palm. That was my silent scene. No speech. No tears. No questions. Just a soft farewell to a voice that no longer belonged to the man who'd written me out of his life. Inside, I opened the freezer. Took out the last container of the cinnamon rolls I used to bake for him. He hadn't eaten them in years. Still, I made them. One batch every December. Just in case. I threw them out. All of them. Even the good ones. I stood at the counter. The cold air hit my face as the door hung open. And for the first time in a long time, I felt warm. Later, I picked up the photo album. The big one. Red leather. Embossed in gold, the Carters, A Family Journey. He gave it to me on my 50th birthday. Said, "You deserve to be remembered." I flipped through every page. Touched each photo. Some stuck to the plastic. Some fading. When I reached the final page, I closed it. Set it in the donation box. Then I reached for the nameplate on the mailbox outside. The one that said Carter Residence. Unscrewed it slowly. Dropped it into the garbage without a word. Went back inside. Pulled out a small brass plaque I'd ordered years ago, but never used. It had one word. Maureen. I fixed it to the door. Simple. Clear. Mine. No longer Mom. No longer his. Just me. And for the first time, that felt like enough. That evening, I sat at the piano. Opened the lid. Pressed one key. Then another. No song. Just sound. My own sound. Not for him. Not for memory. Just for the moment. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it, finally. Viewer reflection. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? And then one day you realize, peace that demands your silence isn't peace at all. I thought I had uncovered the worst of it. Thought the letter was the final blow. But some betrayals wait until you've already let go. Then they twist. It started with a phone call. Not from Mark. From my niece, Jenny. She's always been soft-spoken, like me. She cleared her throat 3 times before she said it. "Aunt Maureen, I didn't know if I should tell you this." That's how betrayal always enters. Through the polite hesitation of someone who still has a heart. She said she overheard something at the reunion planning meeting. Mark had told the family I was unwell. Mentally slipping, he said. Told them I might show up confused. That if I did, they should quietly call him, not engage. For my protection. To keep things calm. They believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was calm. Professional. And I was the mother who had isolated herself. The one who chose distance. I didn't hang up. Didn't cry. Just sat there, holding the receiver like it might burn through my fingers. Jenny's voice shook. I didn't believe it, she said. I know you're sharp. I know better. She said one more thing. Mark showed them a copy of something. A report, maybe. Said it was from a doctor. That was when the room tilted. Just slightly. Just enough for everything I thought I understood to go soft around the edges. After we hung up, I went to the filing cabinet. Bottom drawer. Behind the old tax returns and pension papers. There it was. A manila envelope I didn't recognize. My name written in pen. His handwriting. Inside. A memory evaluation. 3 pages. Signed by a clinic I'd never been to. My birth date. A few notes. Phrases like mild disorientation. Possible executive dysfunction. I sat down hard. Reread it. Then again. I'd never seen these words before. Never had an appointment. Never authorized a test. But there it was. Used to justify why I shouldn't handle my own estate. Why the house needed to be secured. Why I might need care. I thought of the phone calls I used to miss when I stepped into the garden. The ones where no message was left. Maybe those were the only calls that mattered. The ones made behind my back. I closed the envelope. Put it on the table. Sat in front of it for hours. He hadn't just excluded me. He had rewritten me. Erased the version of me that raised him. Replaced her with a shadow. A woman who forgets things. Who confuses names. Who shouldn't be trusted with decisions. And they all believed him. Because he wore a tie. Because he said it softly. Because no one wants to imagine a son could be cruel without yelling. That night, I opened the sealed wedding invitation. The one I found years ago. Returned undelivered. Mark always said it was a postal mistake. I'd believed him. But this time, I held it up to the light. Saw faint pencil lines on the back. 2 addresses. Mine crossed out. Another written in, my sister's. He never intended to send it to me. He wrote me off years ago. I was just too hopeful to notice. I took the invitation and placed it next to the clinic report. Side by side. The evidence of my erasure. He hadn't forgotten me. He had erased me on purpose. With intention. With paperwork. That's when the memory came back. Sharp. Clear. Mark was 11. He'd lied to his teacher about finishing a report. Said I lost it. When I confronted him, he cried and said, I didn't want her to think I was dumb. I forgave him. Held him close. Told him, next time, just be honest. He never liked being the bad guy. So instead, he learned to rearrange truth until it looked like concern. Until he could hurt people and still sound kind. I hadn't raised a monster. I'd raised a master of gentle cruelty. I lit a candle on the table. Watched it flicker. Then I slid both papers beneath it. Didn't burn them. Just watched the wax drip. Let it fall onto the sealed wedding envelope until it hardened into a dull, frozen tear. They didn't just forget me, I whispered. They erased me. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there listening to the house breathe. The creak of the floorboards. The ticking of the clock with no batteries. Morning came gray and quiet. I made toast. Didn't butter it. Didn't sit down. Instead, I pulled out a blank envelope. Wrote one word on it. Truth. Inside, I placed a copy of the report. The photo from the wedding I was never invited to. A letter written by hand, not for Mark, but for Emma. I told her the whole story. Not to win her sympathy. Just so one person in the family would know who I really was. Who I still am. That was the day I stopped asking why. Stopped hoping for the version of him that once drew me a crayon crown. He was gone. And what remained was someone I didn't need to love out of habit anymore. I used to believe motherhood was forever. That no matter what, you held on. Held space. Held hope. Held silence. But holding everything leaves your hands too full to receive anything new. That week, I chose to empty mine. I started in the garden. Pulled weeds with my bare hands. The soil was cold, wet, alive. For years, I'd only planted perennials, safe, expected returners. This time, I planted sunflowers. The tall, stubborn kind that face the light even when the ground tries to pull them down. I bought the seeds myself. No reason. Just wanted to see something grow on purpose. Not out of obligation. Not out of duty. I called Emma. Told her I was updating the will. Again. She hesitated, like she didn't want to assume. But I heard her voice break when I said, "It's yours, sweetheart. The house, the garden, the piano. You've earned it without asking." She cried. Tried to protest. I let her. Then I said, "Sometimes family is who shows up, not who shares your name." That afternoon, I stood at the DMV, waiting to be called. Number 92. Fluorescent lights buzzing like tired flies. When they asked what I needed, I said, "I'd like to return to my maiden name." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Divorced?" "No." She looked at me for a moment, then typed without another word. I walked out with a temporary license that read, Maureen Ellis. The name my mother whispered when she tucked me into bed. The name I let go of for marriage. For motherhood. For them. I said it to myself as I opened the car door. Soft. Proud. New. Old. Mine. That night, I opened the kitchen drawer and pulled out the wedding invitation. The one Mark never meant for me to see. The wax was still hardened across the front, a cold scar. I peeled it off. Opened the flap. Inside was a photo. Mark and his wife. Dressed in white and gray. Smiling. Untouched by the woman they had decided not to include. And behind it, a handwritten note. One I'd never read. It said, "We hope you'll be there in spirit, if not in person. You've always meant so much to us." It was in her handwriting. Not his. And the ink was smudged. Like maybe, just maybe, she had regrets. I sat with that for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't feel vindicated. Just human. Sometimes people leave because they don't know how to come back. Sometimes they erase you because remembering you makes them feel small. But sometimes you stop waiting for them to remember, and you remember yourself instead. I took that letter, folded it gently, and placed it in my journal. Not to hold on, but to mark the moment I stopped needing to be someone else's story. The next day, I drove to the animal shelter. Adopted a scrappy little terrier mix with crooked teeth and tired eyes. Named her Penny, because she was small, overlooked, and still worth everything. We went for walks. Long ones. No destination. Just breathing in the world again. Without performance. Without pretense. I bought paint. Bright colors. Teals and rusts and marigold. Covered the beige walls with brushstrokes that looked like wind and water and joy. I opened the piano lid one morning and started playing again. Not for Mark. Not for memory. Just for the sound of it. The room filled up. And for the first time in years. So did I. I made one more change. A small one. Symbolic. There was a jewelry box in my dresser. Inside, the bracelet Mark had given me on his graduation day. Silver. Simple. Engraved. For the woman who made me everything I am. I held it in my hand for a long time. Then I walked it down to the river. Penny padded behind me, quiet and faithful. I stood at the edge of the bridge. Held it out in my palm. "I was proud of you," I said aloud. "And I still am. But I'm not your shadow anymore." Then I let it fall. Heard the tiny splash. Watched the ripples spread wider than I expected. It didn't hurt. It didn't heal. But it cleared space. A week later, Emma brought over a painting she'd done. Of a woman in a garden, facing away. Hair in a loose bun. Hands in the dirt. "You don't have to hang it," she said. I already had. Before she finished the sentence. Viewer reflection. Would you have walked away or taken everything back? I didn't take anything back. I left it all where it belonged. In the past. And chose something better. Something mine. It was a Tuesday again. Nearly a year to the day since I received the letter. The garden was in bloom. Sunflowers taller than me, bending in the breeze like they knew how far we'd come. Penny barked once. A car door. Footsteps on the gravel. I wiped my hands on my apron, heart steady. Didn't rush. Didn't hide. When I opened the front door, he was standing there. Mark. Older. Thinner. Hair grayer at the temples. Eyes not quite meeting mine. Beside him, a boy 7, maybe 8. Holding his hand. Shifting his weight like he didn't want to be there. "Hi, Maureen," Mark said. "Not Mom." Still. I didn't answer right away. Just looked at him. Waited. Let the silence do what words couldn't. "This is Ethan," he added, gesturing to the boy. "My son." The boy looked at me with wide, cautious eyes. I nodded. "Hello, Ethan." Mark cleared his throat. "I wasn't sure if you'd be here." I almost smiled at that. But I didn't. "I live here," I said. Calm. He looked at the house like he didn't recognize it. The bright walls. The wind chimes. The porch painted sunflower yellow. I heard you changed the will, he said. There it was. Not even 5 minutes in. The reason beneath the visit. I stepped outside, let the door click closed behind me. Emma's been good to me, I said. She's kind. She calls. She listens. Mark nodded slowly. Ethan bent down to pet Penny, who licked his hand without hesitation. I watched them, boy and dog, soft and unguarded. Mark shifted his weight. I didn't come to argue, he said. I've been thinking about a lot. I waited. Still didn't offer a seat. I've made mistakes, he said. There's probably no excuse, but I thought I was doing what was best. The memory thing, the will. I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked at him. Really looked. This man. This boy I raised. The curve of his brow so familiar. But the kindness that had gone quiet in him. You didn't mean to hurt me, I repeated. Just to remove me quietly? He exhaled. Lowered his eyes. I thought you were slipping. I really did. And the house, the estate. I was trying to prepare. No apology. Just justification. The kind that comes from people who don't see the bodies they leave behind. I'm not slipping, Mark, I said, voice low. But you did. You slipped away. He blinked. Tightened his jaw. Why now? I asked. Why did I? He hesitated. Ethan was chasing Penny through the grass, laughing. Innocent. Unaware. There's been talk, Mark said. Emma mentioned she might sell the house. I didn't expect you to cut me out completely. I smiled then. Not out of joy. Out of clarity. I didn't cut you out. You stepped out, Mark. A long time ago. He opened his mouth to speak. Closed it. Tried again. She still calls you Maureen? I asked. His head dropped. He nodded. That was her choice. No, I said. It was yours. You set the tone. She followed your lead. Silence fell again. The wind moved through the hydrangeas. A petal floated down like punctuation. For what it's worth, he said. Ethan's been asking about you. He saw your painting online. Said he wanted to meet the garden lady. I looked at the boy. He had his father's eyes. But not his caution. Not yet. He ran up to me, out of breath. Did you paint that one with the big orange flowers? I did, I said. Can I see it? No, I said gently. It's not here anymore. It went to someone who needed joy. He tilted his head. Are you mad at my dad? I crouched down to his level. No, I'm not mad. I just don't live in his story anymore. He blinked. Didn't understand. That was okay. He would one day. Mark stepped forward. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I stood up. Met his eyes. I believe you're sorry, I said. But you're too late. He swallowed hard. Nodded. I opened the screen door. Penny darted inside. I turned to him one last time. For a moment, I pitied you. Then I let the words fall soft and clean. Then I remembered who I was. The door closed behind me. No slam. Just wood settling into its frame. Inside, the kettle clicked off. The house smelled like nutmeg again. I sat at the table, opened my sketch pad. In the front yard, I could hear them walking away. Gravel crunching. No raised voices. No second chances. Just footsteps. Moving on. Too late. Viewer prompt. Do you believe quiet dignity is stronger than revenge? I didn't need to shout. Didn't need to punish. I just needed to stop waiting to be seen. The house is quieter now. Not emptier, just still in a different way. Not waiting anymore. Not holding its breath. Just breathing. Some mornings, I open all the windows. Let the breeze move through like a visitor I don't need to impress. Penny curls up on the rug beside the piano, twitching in her sleep. Dreaming of things she can't explain but trusts anyway. I envy that. The sunflowers outside are taller than ever. They lean toward the morning light like they know something I don't. Or maybe like they've stopped needing to know anything at all. I made peace. Not the kind someone hands you wrapped in apology. Not the kind you wait for. But the kind you build yourself. Out of quiet mornings. Fresh paint. Unsent letters. Emma visits every week. Brings me strong coffee and stories from her nursing job. She always stays long enough to finish the story. Long enough to ask me about my own. Sometimes she brings her sketchbook. We sit at the kitchen table and draw in silence. Just two women who chose each other. No blood. Just choice. That's stronger, I think. She hung the painting of the woman in the garden above my fireplace. I walk past it every day. It doesn't make me sad. It makes me feel known. The brass nameplate still shines on the front door. Maureen Ellis. Simple. Soft. Mine. I take long walks by the river now. Sometimes I bring a thermos of tea. Sometimes just my thoughts. I sit on the bench near the bend, the one with the carving in the wood. Time doesn't heal. It reveals. I think about the bracelet sometimes. The one I dropped into the water. I wonder where it is now. If it settled somewhere deep and dark, or if the current carried it far. Either way, it's not mine anymore. And I feel lighter for it. The photo albums are gone. Donated, shredded, shared. What mattered, I kept. What haunted, I released. In the back closet, I found a chair I'd forgotten I owned. A rocker. It was my mother's. She used to sit in it and hum to no one in particular. I cleaned it, sanded it, painted it soft gray blue, the color of calm. Then I placed it under the window that faces the garden. It creaks when I sit in it, but it holds me just fine. Some days, I sit there without doing anything at all. Just listen. To birdsong. To wind. To the beautiful, unremarkable passing of time. One afternoon, I received a letter. Not from Mark. From Ethan. A crayon drawing of a dog and a flower. Signed in shaky print. To the garden lady. Thank you for being kind. No return address. Just his name. And somehow that was enough. I folded it and tucked it into my journal. Not because I needed it, but because it asked for nothing and gave everything. There is peace now. Not the kind I earned. Not the kind someone finally gave me permission to have. Just the kind I made myself. Out of silence. Out of strength. Out of walking away. I still make tea every morning. But I only set one cup. Not because I'm alone. But because I'm full. I read the newspaper out loud sometimes. To Penny. To the plants. To the part of myself that still likes being heard. The sealed wedding invitation. The one that was never meant for me. I burned it last week. In the fire pit. It curled quickly. Left nothing behind. And as the ashes rose, I whispered. I release you. Not to Mark. But to myself. I was never the echo. I was the voice they tried to silence. And the key I never gave? That became the one that freed me. No, there was never a confrontation. No storm. No apology worth writing down. Just a choice. To be whole. Without waiting to be welcomed back. The garden is blooming again. This time I planted wildflowers. They don't follow rules. They just grow where they're planted. And so do I.